Welcome to Keep the Flow, the podcast that looks under the hood of the creative process. I'm Scott McLemore, a drummer and composer and designer living way up north in Iceland. And if that sounds weird, you're right. With a background in graphic design and over 3 decades of experience as a professional musician, I turned my fascination with creativity into this show. If you're a creative person like me, chances are you've felt completely lost at least once in your career. Whatever path you thought you were on suddenly disappeared and you didn't know which way to go. Most people like us know this feeling intimately. The economic realities of creative work, whether you're a musician, designer, writer, or artist, often force us to pivot, adapt, and sometimes completely reinvent ourselves multiple times throughout our careers. Today I'm going to share my story of feeling completely derailed when I moved from New York to Iceland, thinking I was leaving music behind for graphic design, only to discover I was being redirected. Then I'll walk you through a 4-part framework I call the Wayfinder to help find your way back to your creative path when life throws you a curveball. Okay, let's go. My wife and I were living in New York where we were both working as musicians, but gradually we felt ourselves making a transition more towards graphic design. She had just finished her master's degree at Pratt, and I was working at a design firm in Brooklyn. It started just as a way to make extra money for that incredibly steep New York rent, but we became more and more passionate about design. The idea came up to move to Iceland, where she's from, and start our own design firm there, and our own family. We had it all mapped out. Leave music behind, dive into this new creative passion, build something together in a beautiful new country. But as we were leaving New York, 2 things happened that completely derailed our plan. First, we found out she was pregnant. Second, the Union of Graphic Designers in Iceland had successfully lobbied to make it more difficult for people to work in graphic design without a degree. If I worked for anyone other than myself, I would make significantly less money. Not exactly ideal for a guy with a pregnant wife in a new country. When we arrived in Iceland, I felt incredibly lost. This was not at all how I had envisioned it. But then something interesting happened. Opportunities started opening up for both of us in music. The very thing we thought we were getting away from started pulling us back in. This was a really hard time, especially with the new language and culture. But once I got some perspective on it, I realized that life was not so gently steering me back onto my original path. Looking back, I can break down what happened into 2 categories: internal and external forces. The internal reasons were our discontent, our longing for a different kind of life, and our excitement about finding a new passion in design. The external reasons were the difficulties in New York, the things that attracted us to Iceland, and finally the circumstances that derailed our plan once we got here. I think it's helpful to break things down like this when we're feeling lost, to figure out how we got here, what's steering us one way or another, and what we really want. This experience taught me something crucial about creative paths. Like I talked about in a previous episode, looking further down the road and having a focal point in the distance can be really useful so we can see which direction we're ultimately heading. For me, that focal point was the desire to be creative in some capacity. That was always my true north, even before I was consciously aware of it. So whether I was doing design or playing music or cooking, it was all essentially the same thing, different expressions of the same creative drive. Once I recognized that, accepting the idea that my dreams of opening a design studio in Iceland might be unrealistic wasn't as painful. Neither was the realization that maybe I had just taken a detour through design and was now back on the musical path. Over the years, I've come to understand that maybe it wasn't just a musical path. Maybe my ultimate path was always toward creativity itself. As the Rolling Stones said, you can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometimes you just might find that you get what you need. Now, I know not everyone ends up in a situation like mine, where new opportunities conveniently present themselves. Sometimes we don't get what we want or what we need, and we just have to work around it. Creative people can run into all sorts of issues that make our work feel impossible, whether that's related to physical or psychological health or finances or circumstances beyond our control. The important thing is to understand what the cause is and know that we can always find a way to return to the path. Getting derailed by life doesn't mean we failed. It means we've taken a detour. That's all. It still sucks when you're going through it, but the quicker you can zoom out and see what's really going on, the quicker you can find your direction again and realize that the creative path is not a straight line. So how do you figure out where you're actually headed when you feel lost? I've created a framework around this, which I call the Wayfinder. It's a series of journaling prompts that help you navigate back to your path. Writing things down always helps me, so I put together a worksheet you can download. There's a link to the PDF in the description, or you can use your own journal and work through these prompts. The framework is divided into 4 main sections. 1. Zooming in and zooming out. These prompts help you examine what's really causing you to feel lost. For example, what specific circumstances changed recently? And if you stepped back and looked at your creative journey as a whole, what patterns do you see? Number 2, looking backwards. Here you identify times of growth and what drove them. Think, when did you feel most creatively alive? And what was inspiring you during that period? Was it other people's work? Was it your own work? A quote or a piece of advice? Number 3, looking forwards. These prompts help you envision possibilities that connect to your past, like what current opportunities or interests echo something from your creative history. Number 4, connecting the old with the new. This is where you find the threads that tie everything together. Questions like, how are your past creative highs similar to what excites you now? And what contrasts do you notice? And what might those differences teach you? It's best if you try these prompts multiple times over several sessions to see what clicks. You'll get a lot of different answers, but I think the average of all of them, a picture will start to emerge. Once you've drawn some lines between the past and the present, it's time to look at how you can make those connections real. Could these threads between old and new lead to new work, new inspiration, new career paths? You don't necessarily have to use this as a direct inspiration for new projects, though that's definitely an option. The powerful part of this exercise is thinking deeply about where you've been creatively and where you might be headed. When we revisit the creative energy of our past and connect it to our potential future, we're drawing a line that points towards new horizons. In my case, opportunities in music presented themselves and made the path somewhat obvious, even though I resented it at the time. Your situation might be different. Maybe you need to create your own opportunities and find creative ways to work around obstacles. But this framework helps us see new possibilities, find new potential, and discover fresh inspiration. I'm not saying this will fix all your problems, but it can help us recognize that feeling lost often means we're being redirected towards something that serves our deeper creative purpose. So check the link in the description to get a free PDF of the Wayfinder worksheet. I think it can help when we feel adrift in our creative lives. If this resonated with you, the recent episode I did about looking further down the road to stay focused creatively is probably worth checking out next, and you can click on that right here. Thanks so much for hanging out. I'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, keep the flow.